Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Southwest governors reach agreement with the federal government on the modalities for implementing regional security outfit Operation Amotekun. Transparency International rates Nigeria low in fight against corruption, ranks country 146 out of 180 countries, and fourth most corrupt country in West Africa. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission disagrees with Transparency International's corruption rating as main opposition PDP insists it's been vindicated with the report. And Chinese authorities lock down more cities as they try to contain the spread of the deadly coronavirus. Now, our website, channelstv.com, has more information for you and our top stories. So subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Now let's continue our conversation on Transparency International's report on Nigeria. I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by the Chairman, Presidential Advisory Committee on Corruption, Professor Ishe Sage. Thank you a lot, Professor, for joining us on the news at 10. Now, the representative of Transparency International in Nigeria, that's Mr. Rafsanjani, he talked about some of the reasons that for this drop in the index. He spoke about selective prosecution, an attack on whistleblowers, etc. How do you see it?
Well, I want to start by asking a more profound question, and that is, who made Transparency International a judge of integrity and transparency all over the world, or particularly in Nigeria? They are just a self-appointed body. And what do they base their work on? On perception. What is perception? That's what somebody thinks. That is not reality. So whose perception are you talking about? Perception of those who have no access to easy money anymore since 2015? Or is it the perception of those who have no access to subsidy, petrol subsidy fraud? Or is it those who don't have a number of 10, 15 BVNs in the banks anymore? And all the other people, those who are compelled to use TSA instead of hiding money in banks all over the place. So that is the question. Whose perception? It cannot be the perception of the ordinary man who has voted this government back into power with 5 million votes, far above that of 2015. So whose perception? So I think the whole exercise is irrelevant.
Well, in terms of that, I mean, that's what you're saying in terms of their perception. But even if you look in the country here, a number of lawyers, a number of human rights activists have been talking about what they claim to be the selective fights, etc. Even though we do hear the acting chairman of the EFCC say that this fight against corruption has renewed vigor. Is there something that we are leaving out? Is there something they're leaving out that's making the rest of the world see it as though this fight is not being fought as we think it is?
No, I don't see the rest of the world seeing it that way. I mean, the continent has appointed the president champion of anti-corruption in Africa. That is what the rest of the world is saying. This, the fight against corruption has been acknowledged everywhere in the world, except by some elites in Nigeria who are beneficiaries of corruption. And that's the whole problem. Nobody is talking of the asset recoveries, well over $1 trillion within the country. Nobody is talking about the whistleblower plan that was introduced by this government, which has been very successful. Nobody is talking of convictions for corruption, which have gone up more than 500%, about 2,000 convictions in the last 4 years. There's so many things, so many positive aspects of this fight against corruption. And the Amnesty Transparency International thinks it can just bulldoze its way into our society and dictate to us what they have observed by perception. Why don't they go to the anti-corruption agencies, ICPC, EFCC, go through their records, see what they have achieved, and compile that and use that as a basis of their assessment, rather than going to ask disgruntled people in the streets of Nigeria what they perceive as a record or success of the anti-corruption war. So, I think the whole exercise is useless and should be disregarded.
Okay, so Prof, I hear what you say about how you feel about their ranking. What would be your own ranking of Nigeria, looking at the country in the last 2 years, even with the issues that we've had among Nigerians, not just transparency? If you were to rank Nigeria on the index, what number would you put us?
Well, I don't have what the achievements of other countries, but this is what I can say. As far as the fight against corruption is concerned, there has been a great leap forward. No question about that in the last 4 years. A great leap forward. The whole fight has been transformed. There's a government that is committed, that has the will to fight it. We have agencies that are fighting it successfully, wrestling it to the ground, sending people to prison, taking stolen property away from them, using the process of that stolen property in social investment for the most vulnerable Nigerians. So in terms of considering Nigeria per se, between 2014 and now, there has been a great leap forward. There's no question about that. But where we can place Nigeria in the rest of the world, I don't know. But if we go by the successes we have achieved, I think we have done much, much better than Transparency International wants the world to believe. And my view is that this government should no longer recognize Transparency International. They were not appointed, they are self-appointed. They should just be disregarded. They are just Confucianists.
All right, Chairman, Presidential Advisory Committee on Corruption, Professor Ishe Sage. Thanks for joining us on the news at 10 tonight and talking about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
President Muhammadu Buhari is back in the country after attending the UK Africa Investment Summit 2020, which held in London from January the 17th. Now, he was received at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport by his Chief of Staff, the FCT Minister, and other top government officials. After the summit, Nigeria emerged among the top gainers of about £6.5 billion in business deals signed, in addition to over £1.5 billion of aid-funded initiatives, which are expected to create several 100,000 jobs. Meanwhile, the UK plans to set up a Nigeria regulatory sandbox to support local fintech firms, as well as a new facility to improve and manage government infrastructure with a funding of £80 million. Let's cross over to Abuja now, and here's Mokbe Ogun Yusuf. Mokbe?
Hello, Ijoma. It's good to see you. We welcome our viewers to our studios in Abuja. Now, the families of the University of Maiduguri student killed by Boko Haram insurgents on his way to school from Plateau State are asking the federal government to intensify efforts at ensuring the safety of lives. The concern of the family was raised at a press conference today in Jos, the Plateau State capital.
Plateau State, north-central Nigeria. Groups of sympathizers and family members gathered to mourn and contemplate the gruesome murder of Raphael Dacia by Boko Haram, a student of biology education at the University of Maiduguri who was viciously killed by the terrorists after he was kidnapped along Damaturu-Maiduguri Road.
As a family, we have nothing to say than to thank God and then appeal for what that small boy said to the whole world, creating a sort of division between Plateau people and the Borno people. That's the only thing that I feel people should just calm down.
I want to call on government to step up efforts in ensuring the safety of lives and property throughout Nigeria.
The representative of his local constituency and another for Plateau State students speak in similar vein.
I passionately appeal to the executive governor of Plateau State to, as a matter of urgency, set up a machinery in motion by considering appointment of a delegation to visit the executive governor of Borno State and the vice chancellor of the University of Maiduguri to elicit a convincing plan of action by government of the state of Borno and the school management of the University of Maiduguri of guaranteeing the safety of Christian Plateau students studying in the state.
I want to plead with all Plateau students. We have been law-abiding. We don't take laws into our hands. Posterity will fight our cause for us. Don't run the streets for any reason. We are peaceful people and we believe that the government will not relent. Equally, NAPS will not relent until justice is abound or justice is gotten to the least Plateau child.
The grief of Rapville's family cannot be put into words, but what can be expressed succinctly is the desire of his family, the people of Plateau State and all Nigerians to see his killers brought to justice and an end to terrorism in Nigeria.
Meanwhile, the Christian Association of Nigeria is calling for a total overhaul of the nation's security system. CAN President Reverend Shukwu Ayokunle criticized the recent killings of the student and that of the chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria in Michika local government area. He says the Christian body has declared Friday the 31st of February to the 2nd of February 2020 for fasting and prayers. When the news at 10 returns, Minister for Transport Rotimi Amechi announces plans to enable access to $200 million vessel financing fund by ship owners in the country. Do join us again.